Welcome to Food Diaries.
Right on.
We're here at Little Toad Creek. Awesome place. Have you tried the sandwiches here yet?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, they're absolutely fantastic. But first, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
It's very difficult to, when you call a politician, be like, hey, do you want to do a random interview where you don't know what the questions are and have some food? They're like, not really.
Right.
But you've always been a good sport, and so I really do appreciate that, Jeff. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So first, let's talk. We are doing our social distancing thing.
Yep.
We are wearing the mask, even though we are about to eat.
Yep.
So we'll be fine. We'll take off the mask while we're eating, obviously, because this doesn't work.
Sure. Yeah, that would not be a good tasting experience.
So tell us a little bit first about what you do, a little bit of your backgrounds.
Sure. Well, I'm a state senator, and of course I do other things as well. But I'm the state senator for District 36, which goes from Central Las Cruces, including where we're at right now, to Little Toad Creek. I'm really happy to show off this District 36 downtown business. But the district I represent goes all the way past Hatch to the Sierra County line.
Awesome.
And so it's a really diverse area that includes historic communities like we're in right now, all the way through the chili fields in New Mexico, the most important chili fields in New Mexico anyway. And so, I'm finishing up actually this year my first term in the New Mexico State Senate. It has been a very interesting experience being there for some of the best financial times of tremendous budget surplus to obviously this pandemic, and the floor has fallen out completely because of the prices of oil and gas. So it's but that's part of being in government. Part of service is meeting the challenges of the day, and that's certainly what we're trying to do now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you also are running again.
I am, running for
right?
re-election this year.
Yeah, and you just made it through primaries. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
So that's awesome.
Appreciate it.
The first question I want to ask you, because like I said, we're just having lunch, and me and you have been friends for a while, and so I'm going to ask you just like I would call you on the phone late at night and ask you a question.
Sure.
How hard has it been to be a politician during these last 3 months? Like the stress, the pressure, and being a politician, in my mind, doesn't matter whether you're left or right. You're supposed to be in the middle and represent the people. But nowadays it seems like you have to be either on this side or this side. There's no in between.
You know, unfortunately, a lot of things that happen in government, happen in society, that government is involved, ends up having this partisan political lens, and it certainly doesn't have to be that way. When it comes to the coronavirus, it doesn't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Right.
So many issues that we deal with, economic opportunity, whatever it is, are nonpartisan issues. So that's a really unfortunate thing, especially when you're trying to deal with public health. But yeah, Jason, it has been, it's been an epic challenge on all of us, and myself included as an elected official.
Right.
I think it's been an additional challenge in trying to help educate the public. And we're all learning, right? The coronavirus is something that none of us knew about several months ago. Scientists are still learning by the day who it affects, how you can transmit it. The science on masks, which more and more they're saying can be maybe the number one thing we can do to limit the spread of this thing. And so, as a public official, you know, I've really felt my responsibility to help use my platform to educate people about being aware of the threats, not downplaying the threats, being aware of the best practices like wearing a mask and encouraging them, and also just dealing with some of the really unique challenges that happen when this virus came upon us. I mean, I you know, when the virus hit, we had constituents. I had a constituent stuck in Peru, for example, who was in a one-bedroom Airbnb and was running out of money, and the military was marching down the street in real life crazy stuff. And it took me weeks, but working with our congressional delegation, we actually helped get this guy out of Peru. Just things that you would never normally have to deal with as an elected official, that suddenly, bam, there they are. But you know, I mean, that's just the least of it. And so it's been interesting, but we will get through this.
Yeah, definitely.
Just as sure as we're here on the patio of Little Toad Creek.
Finally, right?
We will get through this.
Yeah, it's actually, I was here March, it was St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
The St. Patty's Day that never happened.
Yeah.
We did the shirts and everything. We were here having corned beef, and then next day, no more. I barely went out to eat for the first time at a restaurant like a week and a half ago. It's been crazy. And then course, local businesses being shut down and deemed non-essential or essential. And how hard has that been to see the financial collapse of your community basically overnight? And it's of course not your fault, it's not anybody's fault. It happened. How hard was that for you? Sleepless nights? Like what was going through? Talk to me about your feelings, just personal feelings about it.
It's devastating. It's devastating to have people in our community and just in society that are struggling to find food, that run out of money, businesses that are desperate to have to meet their payroll that can't open up, and meanwhile seeing certain inconsistencies out there where they feel like if this business is going to be open across town, how come I can't open? And of course, as a public official, I heard from those businesses, and so it's really upsetting, and yet at the same time balancing out the public health needs of trying to keep people alive. I mean, coronavirus is still very much a life and death virus, and so it's, New Mexico, I think, has done a better job than most states to balance that out, but unfortunately it's a virus. It's synonymous with economic pain as well, and again, it's all been a learning experience.
That's great. I mean, I thank all the politicians, and I know everybody has different political views and things, but I don't think anybody really understands what it's like to have both sides calling you, Jeff, why do we have to wear masks? Jeff, why aren't they wearing masks? Or, why isn't this business open? I did the same thing. I called you. I was like, why am I not essential? You know what I mean? And so,
my feeling throughout the whole thing is our first priority has to be keeping the public safe, but the economic stability of businesses and of humans to be able to have food, to be able to pay their bills is paramount. And so, as we try to contain the virus and slow the growth of it, I repeatedly urged, and I continue to urge Congress to step up to the plate to help make sure that our businesses are kept whole, that the people are able to put food on their table, and that we basically not make anybody a sacrificial lamb, right? Be it a frontline worker at a grocery store, or a policeman, or whoever it is. Shouldn't have any sacrificial lambs. Getting through this virus means how do we get through it, not only physically but economically, and keep people whole and protected. And so we have a lot more work to do, and it's going to continue on like this for a while. In the state of New Mexico, we go into a special session this coming Thursday. We're looking at some proposals to help business owners with some additional aid, similar to what the federal government did. So I think those are great, and I'm hopeful we can do some of those ideas and just need to help folks get through this difficult time.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue to my next question, which is, how hard has it been being a local representative to get the funds allocated to help your community out from the state and from the federal government, but both sides, state government and federal government? Is it been difficult? How's that fight been like?
It's been challenging at times, especially in the early days when people needed to get tested and we were trying to really contain an outbreak. I knew someone who had come here from Seattle and was sick, and come here from one of the early hotspots in the country. And so, fortunately, as a senator, you probably have better access to some of our government officials than other citizens. So, I was daily on the phone texting, trying to get people tested, and so but it was really challenging because we had a scarcity of resources. So, but other times we've been able to help get quick response for assistance that's been needed. So it's been kind of a mixed bag. I told you about the guy that was stuck in Peru. I was working hand in glove with Senator Heinrich, Congresswoman Xochitl Small's office, and so that was really heartening because I could imagine being in another state or another situation where maybe they weren't responding to the situation, but our federal people actually were trying to get a lot of people stuck who are in other countries, and they set up a fund to help them with bills while they were overseas. So it was just amazing coordination. So it's been a mixed bag, but again, it's been a learning experience. We've been, as a society, ramping up from 0 to 100 and addressing all the various needs of public health, economics, food security, and when this all started, it was a new thing. So it's been crazy, but hopefully we're learning lessons and getting better. You should expect that. You know?
Well, the sun's starting to come out. I want you to be able to try this sandwich. So
All
let's
right.
take our masks off. We're still
Okay.
going to continue the
Sounds
conversation. Have you ever had the Cubano here?
Man, I haven't.
This is awesome. You got the Reuben, right?
I got the
You
Reuben.
can't go wrong with that.
Green chili, sauerkraut. I'm about to be in heaven.
Yeah, this is awesome. Let's take a bite and then
All
I'll
right.
have some more questions for you. That's awesome. So good. So glad they're open. It's been so long since we had a chance to do something like this. Even if we're social distancing, we're still here together.
Quote you, Jason, the Reuben game is on point.
The Reuben game is on point here.
All right.
Oh man. So one of the biggest things I think the pandemic has done that I've seen, this is all just my personal view. This is not the views of ELC, our community, or anything like that. What I've seen is it caused the state governments and the federal governments, it really opened up the eyes of where the leaks are.
Yeah.
When it comes to dealing with the community as a whole. And that's been pretty interesting to see.
Yeah.
On both sides. And so it also opened up, I think, a lot of the mental health issues that the population as a whole has, not just New Mexico, but we do suffer a lot from it down here. How people deal with their anxiety, how people deal with stress, depression, and I think it caused people to make maybe bad mistakes or bad decisions, like if you look at law enforcement and stuff like that. We have the BLM movement that's, I'm going to say back, it's really never been gone, but right now it's a stronger voice than ever. There's been some crazy things going on. Riots, protests, peaceful protests like the ones they had down here, which was amazing.
Murder of innocent people.
Murder of innocent people like George Floyd, and there's other people. We had one down here also where it happened, and you don't want to let one bad cop spoiled a bunch of law enforcement, especially our law enforcement here. I can't speak for law enforcement in Minnesota. Don't know anything about it. But I know our law enforcement here, they're a group of strong, awesome individuals. But it does still bring up the point of what's going on in the country. So we have the town halls tonight. I have a question, and it's just, again, my personal view. The defund the police movement. Maybe I have an exaggerated view of what the defund the police movement is, because in my mind, when you say defund the police, I think that if my neighbor is getting robbed and someone calls the police department and says, hey, we need services, it's going to go straight to voicemail. No one's going to answer because there's no one there to answer the call. And I don't know if that's really the right way to think about it. And so I kind of wanted to get your views on that movement.
I think it probably means different things to different people. Personally speaking, I don't support defunding a law enforcement function in our society because it is needed, and police have some of the toughest jobs out there. I mean, and you know what? And when things go south, and your business or you personally are at risk, you want that protection. Having said that, I think clearly there's opportunities to strengthen and reform policing. I mean, there's an old saying that says, "With great power comes great responsibility." I feel the same thing as an elected official.
Yes, absolutely.
The fact is that when you carry a gun and you have that law enforcement power over people, it's incumbent upon you, and we expect people to be very professional, to use that judiciously. And so, number one, in terms of the use of force, absolutely looking at chokeholds or looking at, when it's appropriate to physically arrest someone for a petty crime. As we saw, frankly, with George Floyd or the guy that they put a chokehold on for selling an illegal cigarette.
Yeah, he was selling individual cigarettes in Staten Island.
Why did that have to occur? So I think really it's about reimagining the role of community and policing. Unfortunately,
that's actually a perfect way to put it.
And I think that's what it's really about, is reimagining these resources, reimagining it not just from our perspective but from theirs as well. I mean, unfortunately, back to the mental health, because we don't adequately fund mental health, who ends up having to be that solution? It's the police. And so I'm sure the police would love to have another agency that would be effective, that could be called out to help do de-escalation, help resolve mental health crises, rather than it fall to them. they'd probably be the first to say, yeah. So how we reimagine, how we, even if appropriate, reassign resources while still maintaining teamwork, I think all of that should all totally be on the table, and yet also have an honest discussion about, the importance of law enforcement and those components that we would all collectively agree protect society and serve us.
So probably just a bad choice of words as far as hashtag defund.
You know what?
Police. Maybe it's just police reform will look into it, or like you said, reimagine the resources you have and do with it what they will.
Yeah, well, I didn't come up with it, and whoever did, I can't speak for them, but I like the idea of reimagining it. Yeah.
And I do think that needs to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not for defunding the police by any means at all.
Right.
But I am for reform and trainings and how to do things the proper way, because there is a real big issue, and we might not see it here in our great community, but there is an issue out there.
Yeah,
and we actually did have it end up happening in our community, and it's one bad apple spoils the bunch, and it's kind of hard to think about that. But on a brighter note, so thank you for answering those questions. I know that was tough. On a brighter note, we're downtown.
Yeah.
We're at Little Toe Creek. We're on the patio. The farmers market's open.
Yeah.
There's people walking around. There's money being exchanged. There's small business going.
Yeah.
And
we're
like
eating a green chili Reuben.
Yeah, we have Reubens, Cubans. A month and a half ago, I didn't think this was ever going to happen again, to be honest with you. Plus, I was just in a weird state with digital solutions. Like, what are we going to do? Me and Lerner are like, what do we do here? So now that this is happening, I'm more positive about the future. Now, when the election process comes up, what's that, July, August, so about 5 months from now? Yeah. So what do you think the next 3 to 5 months is, or the next 3 to 5 months looks like for new politicians that are about to take office, or existing politicians that are going to stay there?
Well, I mean, we have an election, so, there's a need to communicate to either your constituents or the people you hope will be your constituents and try to earn the vote. As a society, as a government, we really need to think about the vote by mail. We need to recognize the fact that the coronavirus is here with us. It is deadly. It is going to continue to be here with us. And we should not make people choose between putting themselves in a risky situation or casting their vote in an election. And so the vote by mail option needs to be very strong, needs to be protected. This last time New Mexico was absolutely inundated at a historic level in the primary of people voting by mail. That's going to be nothing compared to the general election and the crush of voters. So as a legislature, we are wanting to look at options in the special session coming up with how to strengthen vote by mail to protect people's vote and make sure we can put on a safe election here in New Mexico.
And since you guys have just gone through this with the primaries, you think you could have the systems in place to make it easier for people to vote by mail. The thing with voting by mail, again, uneducated in this situation as much as you are, but voting by mail, how do you deal with like voter fraud and things like that? Is there any way? Is there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they that you have codes and stuff on these envelopes, and you have to sign your name multiple times, and it's now, of course, you're only mailed an application, and you have to, be mailed. You have to request an application personally and then get it. The fact of the matter is, Jason, I know some people like to talk about voter fraud. It is so rare. They have looked into it here in the state of New Mexico. They've looked into it others. It's the few times it does happen, it's happened on the Republican side as much or more, frankly, even than the Democratic side. So, but it's nothing that the Democrats are trying to make.
How do they do those numbers?
Well,
like, how do they figure that out?
Well, no, it's so rare. It's so rare that when it happens, it is usually someone that's trying to do it on a level to try to impact an election.
Okay.
And so, as far as people wanting to fraudulently cast a ballot who aren't supposed to cast a ballot, it just rarely happens. That's just a fact of the matter.
People barely take the time to vote, much less.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, if you care enough about voting, you probably got registered to vote the right way.
And did it the right way.
You're requesting a ballot. So we should make sure that our elections are secure. I totally support that as much as anybody. But at the same time, we shouldn't overly be concerned about a situation that doesn't really exist.
What do you think this is, let's say this last, let's just take the last 14 days.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the new norm or do you think it's going to go back to it was on March 23rd, which is just barely, it's just right there. We're just like right there, a normal society, to this. What's the new norm? Last month?
Yeah.
Right now? How do you think it's going to look when, let's just take the November, let's just use that as a deadline. How's the economy going to look?
Yeah.
How's the state of New Mexico going to look?
I think it depends on us as a society. If we continue to wear masks, if we continue to practice social distancing, the virus needs to spread a virus to you in order for you to get it. And so if people can contain their virus, get tested, quarantine themselves as sick, wear a mask so they don't spread it, social distance so that the aerosol droplets don't get to you when we're in a store. If we can do this, then we can maintain a low rate of infection, low enough, so that we can absolutely go back to not normal the way things were back in March, because I think some large events will still be an unsafe environment, or large contained events, but to where we can actually shop, do commerce, do most of what we used to do in a safe way. But the trade-off is we have to be willing to wear masks. We have to be disciplined about social distancing. What we're seeing in other states that have really just been careless about this and denied the science is they're seeing, many states are seeing massive spikes. And, we haven't even begun to see that fully play out. So you might have some states that have to take a hard look at going back into quarantine.
That kind of brings up a question for me, and you just ring a bell in my head. I was like, oh, Damien, I got to ask Jeff about this when I have the chance. So I got you here today.
Yeah.
Protesting and rioting is not maintaining social distance at all. And so, like, the views of, I don't know if it's the CDC. I don't want to quote anybody wrong. I'm just going to say what I heard. You can have up to 10 people in a public place, but you can have up to 200 people doing a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
Who comes up with these crazy numbers? And then the other thing is, they said since the protest this last week and a half to 2 weeks, that they haven't really been seeing a spike.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, none of these people that are protesting, peaceful protesting or violently protesting, they haven't went and got tested for COVID yet.
Yeah.
So we don't even know, I think, what the spike will be, right?
Yeah, I know. I think that's right. We don't know. We haven't seen any effects from that. I think certainly being outside helps disperse aerosol. And a lot of the people that are protesting are wearing masks. I went to one myself in Albert Johnson Park, and I was maintaining social distancing.
Right.
But I hear you. It is seemingly a contradiction, and I just think people's emotions are just so raw over what happened, and frankly, even the frustration of being cooped up. This is a moment where I think those two things kind of came together.
Oh, it's just a big explosion.
And people had to let out their frustrations. But if you are outside and you need to maintain your distance from people, you need to be wearing a mask. If you can do those two things, I think it is it's relatively safe to even go to a protest. I like that Austin Trapp and Tommy Black tonight in their town hall announcement said must be wearing a mask and social distance.
Yeah.
So the two can go hand in hand, and like I said, it's a small trade-off I think to make, Jason, to be able to try to get back to as normal life as possible, but respect the virus, because it will kill, and if it won't kill you, it might infect you, and you might kill an elder or someone who's immunocompromised.
Yeah.
None of us want to do that.
No, definitely. None of us want to do that at all. So, as far as the masks are concerned and social distance and everything, now you're also, you work a lot with Film Los Cruces, which is a great local organization. I love what Film Los Cruces has done this last 3-4 years, just to see it just grow. You guys did a bunch of public service announcements. We're actually going to be posting one. Well, by the time everybody sees this video, it'll already be posted. So Saturday, when we did this, we're going to have it posted later today. How was it working with the state of New Mexico and to bring those PSAs to Film Los Cruces? I had a chance to check out one, and it was really, really funny. I'm not going to spoil it before I put it out, but it was really, really funny.
Thank you.
How's that going?
Well, it's going great. Personally, I saw what was happening with the discussion of the governor's policy on masks and the discussion at the county and the city government about people wearing masks, and I really felt like we need to be doing more public information to help build support around these ideas of wearing a mask and really make it a source, a very New Mexican source of, hey, we're in this together, we can do this together, we can keep each other safe. It's a positive thing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. And so I reached out to the state and the local governments to talk about coordinating some sort of public information effort. And as the president of Film Las Cruces, I've had the privilege to get to know a lot of good filmmakers. And the state was very receptive and said, right on, let's do this. And awesome. So we reached out to, coordinated with the Film Las Cruces staff, and we reached out to 4 different directors around the state. One of whom was a member of the Navajo Nation, but really trying to create pieces designed for certain audiences. And one PSA is in Spanish, working with a really talented filmmaker named Tabe Tejeda. But also several of the one of the PSAs, the funny one, was produced by an NMSU professor named Rajiv Nirmalakandan. Who?
How did you remember how to say that name correctly, or did you just butcher it? We don't know about it.
Don't make me say Nirmalakandan a second time. But no, everybody knows Raj and loves him. Super talented filmmaker. So anyway, we reached out to these filmmakers, got these great PSAs made, and now hopefully it looks like they're going to start being promoted, and hopefully it helps get the word out.
Awesome. Now I do have to ask you one more question before I'm going to let you dive into the food.
Okay.
My wife Kayla, she was a principal of a charter high school in Demi. Now she's actually the principal down here of a charter school.
Yeah.
So she was like, oh, you're going to talk to Jeff, so you know what question's coming next.
Yeah.
With this last 3 months to the end of the fiscal year, we're definitely going to be in debt in the state of New Mexico. It's a hard time for New Mexico to budget balances anyways, because we don't get the type of funding that we deserve like other states, and that's why we have people like you fighting for it. How does the funding look for schools in this upcoming year? And are schools going to go back to not obviously normal in August? So it's a big shout out to the teachers too that are going to have to deal with this social distancing and masking with the upcoming school year. But what does funding look like? How are schools going to get back to normal if they didn't have the proper funding before to make these changes? Because they got to go to technology, they got to go to not switching classes. What's funding look like?
It's a massive challenge. One of the biggest things we did was gave teachers a really good raise last year, and
she didn't tell me she got a raise.
We're hopeful that they're still going to get at least a 1 to 2% raise, which is not much, but it's also not a cut. So much of state government, unfortunately, is going to get a haircut, as we say, in budgeting. But we're shooting for a 1 to 2% increase in their salaries, which is a lot less than the 10% that they had gotten during the session. Or no, I'm sorry, it ended up at 4%. But some of it, Jason, a lot of education funding is going to remain whole. Some programs like K Plus in the summer was stopped by the Department of Education. So I'm still learning about, frankly, some of the adjustments to the education department. I think the big question that we're really wondering right now is whether or not school's going to be back in session and what that looks like, and what it looks like at the higher education level. So it's still playing out, and I'm going to learn more about it. But it's our kids got to be getting educated, but we got to keep everyone safe. So it's the same challenge that we're juggling there. But thank your wife for what she does.
Yeah, no, I will tell you something. I've got to talk to you about the raise first before thank you.
Right.
Well, thank you, Jeff, again for doing this with me. I know it's difficult when someone calls you and says, hey, you want to do an interview, but I'm not going to tell you the questions, and we're just going to wing it.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you being a good sport.
Welcome.
You always have. You've been a great friend, and good luck in November.
Thank you.
Hope everything works out. I wanted to say thank you, Michael, Carol. This food was, again, out of this world. I know I'm a little biased, a little toe, because I love the food here. I love being here. Thank you for letting us host this Food Diaries event here. We really do appreciate everything you guys do.
No problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jeff, any final words for the ELC community?
Yeah.
Little Toad?
Well, everybody, hang in there. We're going to get through this. We're all going to get through this together. Wear a mask. Keep your social distance. Keep each other safe. That's the main thing we can do, so that we can, like Jason and I are doing today, we're socially distanced. We were wearing masks. The staff are wearing masks. This is how we'll get through this together. We'll keep it safe. We'll be able to allow life to return to normal. The virus is out there. We have to take it seriously. But beyond that, Jason, thank you so much for everything Las Cruces in New Mexico does. Love your work. Little Toad Creek, really, I'm lucky because I get to represent downtown Las Cruces in the state senate. And so when Jason reached out, I wanted to do this in my district. And Little Toad Creek, you guys are a fantastic business. We're just really proud of and love the green chili Reuben, as Jason would say. Your chili Reuben game is on point, and maybe leading the way. So I think you set the bar, but it's been delicious. And to all the crew, thank you for your work filming this today, and make sure you support your filmmakers and your small businesses.
Definitely support your filmmakers. Definitely big shout out to the crew, Rob, Lance, Little Toad. And then a big shout out to our video producer, Nick Howie. I'm going to have all his information. He's going to be shooting all the food diaries for us. He's the best in the Southwest. And I would love to have him on staff, but I can't afford him because he's too good. So I can appreciate when I can get him out here for a weekend. But that's the food diaries. That's our first episode. Stick back with us. We're going to have a new episode next week here at Little Toad Creek with another... Oh, should I call you a celebrity? Are you a local celebrity?
No, I'm not a
You're
celebrity.
just a local politician, right?
Yeah, I'm a public servant. I'm a public servant.
Okay, well, with another public servant, actually, and you're a local celebrity. You're a celebrity to me. So
I've been called worse things. So
probably by me also. Just kidding. We love you, Jeff. Thank you again. You're such a good sport. Thank you to you guys. And we're out, guys. Thank you.